the champions of change, advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ivory.
All right. Welcome
Larry
to the
Ivory.
Wake Up Show. Larry, I think that we can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Well, hey, welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago. My name is Dr. Larry Ivory. I'm President and CEO of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce and Chairman of the Board of the National Black Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C. I am excited to bring another exciting program that we believe benefits Black businesses and Black people in the United States of America and throughout the globe. I'm excited to have with me today the incredible, fantastic co-host, LaDonna Raeh. LaDonna.
But what I am really saying is happy Valentine's Day to everyone. You're listening to the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce's powering of the Wake Up Show Chicago. And we're also sponsored by Wind Creek Casino Southland. As I fumble to get this screen up right. Okay, if you are on Facebook Live, you can share this show. Please continue to do so. Share it with whomever and everyone that you feel can benefit from this conversation. And of course, I am on Monday through Thursday on the afternoon show with WVON. And I want to introduce our guest co host, who is the human rights activist. I
Mhm,
put
mhm,
activist on
mhm,
there this
mhm,
week. Every week
mhm.
is different.
Right.
And human trafficking activist Lorenzo T. Hughes. Before I bring you on, though, I want to let everybody know go to ilbcc.org and become a member. Because why? Why would you become a member, Larry? Well, because you would want to be a member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce if you are a business owner. And this is what the Illinois State Black Chamber does. It connects you to the dots, the procurement, the contracts, the sheltered market, Springfield, lobbying, laws, and loopholes. I love saying that. All right, Mr. Lorenzo, take it away.
Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Show with the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, of course. What do you have for us today? Because last time you came, you gave us some historical facts. I want to hear some more of that.
Yes, today's a little bit more interesting, and this one I wanted to try to tackle, because it's close and dear to me. And I want to just I'm gonna call this one kind of a hot topic. And if I think all of us have heard of the movie Moses the Black, and those of you who have heard my introductions, I am in the performing arts, so I've had the chance to co-star
You're an
and guest
actor.
star
Yes.
on television, so I kind of see this from the inside at these things that are taking place with storytelling, especially our storytelling as a culture. But let me start out by saying this once again, never before in the pages of history has a nationality of people been so consumed by the ways and customs of another culture of people. And unfortunately, that happens to be us. So let's go into this. I want to kind of talk about the power of psychocinematics. And I know a lot of us have never heard this, but we kind of touched on it a little bit last week. Psychocinematics and media. Last week we talked about marketing and how it is the repetition of it is used to repeat the importance of a product until the audience feels like they need what it is that you are trying to sell them, whether it be goods, services, or even a narrative or a philosophy. So going into this issue with the movie Moses the Black, which was pulled, or I like to say suppressed, 2 days before it's released, even after the movie theaters had sold out in tickets, they refunded people their money back. Now, if you haven't heard of the movie, I'm sure you probably have. This movie, Moses the Black, is an upcoming crime drama and film that interviews the or it intertwines with the modern day story of a gang leader in Chicago with the historical narrative of Saint Moses the Black, exploring the themes of redemption and repentance. Now, the film follows Malik, who is portrayed by Omar Epps, a feared gang leader recently released from prison. He returns to Chicago, determined to avenge the murder of his close friend Saeed, as he navigates the violent world of gang rivalry. Now, the cast of this movie is it's directed by, and I apologize if I butcher some of the names, but Yelena Popovic, and it's featured notably a notable cast include Wiz Khalifa, Quivo, and Chawukri Iwuji. I'm sure I
Butchered.
probably
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I butchered that one. And it's produced by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, um, who also serves as the executive producer. The film was set to be released in the United States on January 30th, 2026.
So what happened?
Well, they're trying to say that there wasn't enough. From what I've heard, that there wasn't enough pre-sales
Mm.
for the movie to pull it, but it was very vague, their
Yeah.
reasons
Yeah.
for
Just
pulling it. And
another
that's
reason to
something,
pull it.
right? And that's something that you find very common when our stories are trying to be suppressed, or we're trying to be stopped from doing what it is that we're trying to do, especially when it comes to success. And we
Now,
see
real
that a
quick,
lot in the
you
Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce as we try to push forward with success. Go
you
ahead.
had a personal situation with this movie. Didn't you try to go see it at some AMC
Right,
theaters?
I was
And
trying to see it at
yeah,
some of the AMC theaters, and they were up at some point, but then they were pulled.
they
They
were
were
pulled.
pulled down.
Yeah.
And I think there was one other theater that what I think was still showing it. But this goes back to what I was saying. This is why when you have an organization like the chamber trying to push for us to have businesses, we need our own venues where we can fight against this type of behavior.
Now, Larry, don't we have a member of our chamber that owns a movie theater?
We do. He
We do.
just
He just
recently sold
recently
it.
sold it.
No
But
way.
movie business is big business,
Yeah.
and it's something that we ought to be aware of. With Harry Lennox and all our friends
Yeah.
who are in the movie and theater business. It is a it is an incredible business of revenue. That's why it's so important for us as a chamber to be engaged in every aspect where money is being made and where we can make money, where we can control our own destiny. And this is what it's all about. As long as we give everybody else control, we will always be vulnerable. But we also have the power to speak out, to make sure that people understand the value of Black power, Black economics, and everything else.
Mm.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Well, thank you so much, Lorenzo T. Hughes. Always a way of reflecting. Even though some of you may have seen this movie, it looks like you cannot even go and see this movie. But I did see it at Marcus Theater. I didn't go see it. I should have. Shame on me.
Oh, so it's
But
screening.
it's at
Okay.
some other local theater. Some of them, for
Okay.
however long. But we got to get out and support guys, and we have to. They've done this many times, Larry, with ticket sales, lying about the ticket sales and how they didn't sell, but it really did. And we just have to take control of that. Larry, who's up next? I know that we're moving towards the nine. We're past 9:15. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me introduce. We have with us today um, the chair of the IT committee and one of the members of the IT committee, Arnold Crater and Charles Harrell. I'll let them kind of do a quick introduction, but we can get
Yeah, let's
right
start.
into.
Let's start with Arnold Crater because that's who I have on the screen.
Okay, go right ahead, Arnold.
Mhm. Arnold, you're muted. It says mute on your microphone. Yep. In the meantime, Larry, who is Arnold?
Arnold works for SLG. He is the chair of our IT committee with an enormous background in technology.
We should be able to hear you
Arnold,
now.
you're able to unmute?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
that's much better.
Yeah, I guess being muted is not good. Um, Thank you. Yeah, and thanks everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. So, yeah, Arnold Crater, I'm chair of the IT committee for the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm also currently the vice president of delivery services for SOG Innovation, and so Our company itself, we do IT. We're a full service IT management consulting firm. We do business at the state and local level. And across the nation, we do a lot of work in health and health services, um, and and other uh, traditional IT management consulting services. And personally, actually, I am now Dr. Arnold Creator. I just finished my PhD in computer science in November. So,
I stand corrected. It does clearly say Dr. Arnold Crater,
There
though
you
my
go.
eyes aren't playing tricks on me.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, that's it.
All right. Well, we got Charles Harrell on the line as well, Larry.
Hey, Charles, introduce yourself real quick.
First and foremost, give me the opportunity to participate in this extremely important situation as relates to uh, procurement within the state of Illinois. Uh, Again, my name is Charles Sherrod II, the president and CEO of the IT Architect Corporation. We are a member of the chamber. It's been now 10 years as a member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Technology Committee. As an organization, uh, the IT Architect designs, implements, and manages the automation of business processes with innovative telecom and technology solutions.
That's a long time, Larry. You are you do you have your applause ready? We need some sound effects. 10 years with the chamber?
Yes, indeed. Well, let me get right down to it, LaDonna.
Mhm.
The reason we're having a conversation um, on technology, we've asked Arnold and Charles to be a part of this conversation because, as all of us know, IT is a driving factor to innovation, growth, and more efficiency. And there is no other industry that is having as much impact upon bottom line and global competitive than is technology. I would ask them in terms of why technology is so critical from their perspective. What's a short answer on that? Then we're going to get into the weeds on a number of other things.
All right,
I'll
Larry.
start with Arnold.
Yeah, thank you. We you have someone on hold too, Dwayne Cassell.
Oh, Dwayne Cassell.
Hmm.
Well, let's introduce Dwayne real quick. I didn't know Dwayne was on.
All right.
Let's see if we can
Dwayne.
introduce Dwayne.
Hey, Dwayne, you're live.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Dwayne Cassell, team principal for the Silicon Black Group. We are a cybersecurity and industrial automation control firm. We focus on securing the nation's critical infrastructure. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Dwayne.
And we are a member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce.
Well, we're going back, guys. I want to kind of set the stage for our audience. IT, we have an IT committee, as I stated. Arnold is the chair, and Charles, as well as Dwayne, as a part of the IT committee. A couple of the members of the IT committee. We just talked about how important IT and technology is, LaDonna and Lorenzo. So we'd like to get people's perspective because we're going to get right into it in just a second on some of the critical issues at the state level that we need to be aware of when it comes to procurement and opportunity. So if someone wants to jump in, Dwayne or Arnold or Charles, just to give us why your perspective, why IT is such a critical part and why we should focus on that as an organization.
I mean, one of the this is Arnold. One of the reasons why IT is so important. Actually, across every business unit within the state, um, all of the productivity improvements, whether it's people or operational, or as it relates to cost savings or delivering services, um, uh, technology is really at the epicenter of that. So, though it's not the most important thing from a political standpoint, everything that they do is based on and will be improved by or delivered by technology. So there's no aspect of the services that are delivered um, from the state or even local, but primarily state, that is not touched by or delivered by technology.
Thank you, Arnold. Let's kind of talk a little bit about when we talk about procurement at a state level. There are a number of things that happens and don't happen, and one of the things I would say that from the Black community perspective, we have not been extremely good at understanding procurement as a rule of thumb. But procurement is where the contracts are given, where the scope of work is put out, and where money is being made or not being made. And when you take a look at the agency that handles technology for the state of Illinois, that organization is called Do It. And Do It controls a large portion of all IT contracting in the state of Illinois. And we meet with Do It. We're going to be having a meeting coming up soon with the leadership of Do It to talk about a number of factors as it relates to procurement overall. And so, what I'd like to maybe do, guys, is just kind of give a perspective on procurement and the role that we play, that we should be playing as it relates to doing business with the state on the procurement side. So I'll let whoever wants to chime in, and then we'll continue to move forward.
Don't everybody
Uh,
speak at once.
yeah, someone else want to start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah. This is Dwayne. I think as Larry indicated, it's extremely critical for us to understand the process behind the procurement within the state. But the basis for this is that, as Arnold indicated, IT, or we want to look at the infrastructure of IT, is the basis for the operation of many facets of all organizations. And there's always ongoing spending associated with infrastructure. And for businesses, diverse businesses such as ourselves, once we have the opportunity to engage in those spaces, it opens up many doors in various aspects of business opportunities. So IT tends to be not as visible as maybe some of the other areas, but it is extremely critical. It's the underlying foundation for any organization to run successfully and efficiently.
So let me pose another question to the group collectively. We had a conversation some time ago about Vivian USA, who took over the updating the BEP system, and it was not overly successful. They're trying to correct it. But I think what's important to understand is that BEP certification is a basis by which we set goals or we put goals on contracts. And what happened in the past that we talked about is that launch of this particular system did not go as well as most people hoped. But the downside was that we went from maybe 5,600 BEP certified firms down to 2,800. And that had an adverse impact on goal setting because if you only have half of the people in it, then you would have to assume that the goals are lower based upon the fact that you don't have as many people in the system. And as I understand, they're working to correct that, but it's going to require that some people who are not in the system have to go back and do some work that they normally would not have to do, but they have to do it now because they're not in the system. And the numbers are still pretty low, which means that we're probably setting more goals at the same time. And I think that's a real serious issue that we can't ever not stop talking about until it's corrected, because it impacts our ability, or the goal setting process, in terms of how high or how low the goals is at this point in time. And Donna, you and I have been engaged in this conversation for a little bit. What's your thoughts on that? And then we'll go back to the team here.
I'll tell you what my concerns are, and you may or may not have already answered this. How long, when these contracts are awarded, does that contract last? How long does it typically last?
I can answer. Yeah, I'll share that. This is Charles Harrell. Yeah, kind of step back just a little bit. But yeah, some of these contracts, especially within IT in the telecom space, they are up to 9 years, not to exceed 10. So these are long contracts. Just to
So
quickly
so let
answer
me
your
let me let me get this straight. You've got a contract awarded to a non-minority status business or non-BEP member that gets to ride this contract and feed their family for almost 10 years. And then the person that is on, or should I say, part of the BEP council, they have to wait almost 10 years in order to be denied again. Is that what's
I,
going on?
I think that we can unpack it just a little bit more. There's solicitations that have been put on the street, so to speak, where by BEP policy, you're supposed to look at that procurement and identify if there are enough BEP firms that can actually provide that respective service, and then they break it out by what they call NIGP class. It's the functional equivalent of what they call a NACE code. So that's what the state will do, is look at that. But throughout that entire procurement workflow, that's why the education that's associated with the workflow is, of the procurement process is critical, just so you can understand where all the holes are that can disenfranchise BEP firms. So throughout that entire process, as they identify these firms, what can happen is they can look closely even at the scope of work, or how it's presented, in the solicitation or the invitation to bid, and they can say, well, there's really no availability, even though there's availability. And throughout that process of saying that there's no availability, they can they can argue that there's no goal to be set. Um, and because you're supposed to have at least three more BEP firms that are, that can actually provide the service. But if you narrow it based on what's presented in the scope of work in the solicitation, then you can narrow it down to saying, for example, there's only one firm that can provide it, and then that will allow the state to say 0% go. And so, yeah, as a result, uh, there's a prime contractor or awardee that wins this extremely large solicitation, and BEP firms that would otherwise be able to participate, they're not able to participate.
Charles, is this
Uh,
fair to you? Do you think this is fair? Do you think this is a
Absolutely
fair
not.
shake? Right. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, they can say that those people don't qualify, and they clearly do. But at the same time, who decides that they can, I guess, bypass the fact that you said the state can go ahead and override and say that there's no goals on this particular procurement?
If there's an argument made and no one's there to catch that there's been a request for a 0% BP goal, yeah. But the thing is, it's about the transparency to even have the opportunity to
Right.
go in and say, and state that
Mm,
there's plenty of opportunity.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And a lot of these opportunities within IT and telecommunications, it revolves around professional services. It's all throughout the solicitation, but you need to have transparency around really what those opportunities are. But when you're in this space, we know what the opportunities are. We're just, BEP firms are disenfranchised. They're not afforded the opportunity from the start. And more times than not, they don't even know why a goal is being put in place, or they are put on notice about that there's no goal. It's just simply it needs to be exclusively done by this particular prime, and it's not even a sole source type of situation where only they can do it. No, others can do it. BEP firms can do it. These large organizations, more likely than not, they subcontract out, partner, team with firms to support them with delivering these services to the state of Illinois.
This is such a tricky, slippery slope here. I just want to remind everybody you're listening to the Wake Up Show, Chicago, powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and we have some callers out there, and the phones are lit. I need to get to them, Larry, because otherwise we won't get to them.
Yeah, let me ask this quick question before we take on the next caller. I think Charles did a great job of explaining, but when firms come and they go to the state, to the BEP Council or the CEI Council, and they ask for an exemption, it's a request. We can grant an exemption or not grant the exemption. If people who are granting the exemptions are not familiar with the internal works and the opportunities, they may, due to a lack of understanding, approve a waiver request and take off a goal and put a 0% goal instead of a 10 or 15% goal, and we're left out, and we're left out for 5, 10 years
I'm
at the
sorry,
same
Larry.
time.
If somebody has that type of power to exempt them from a particular goal, shouldn't there be a requirement that they understand how this works? You're saying that they may not understand?
They may not be as educated on the subject matter as they can be. Um, that's just a mere fact. We're right now in the middle of a number of procurements that we've identified where they had a goal, the firm made a request, and they were approved an exemption. Once we took a look at it, we realized that there were more than enough firms to set a goal and have a goal on it. So we're pushing back now from a chamber with the IT committee to make sure that those things don't happen. That's why it's so important for us to have an IT committee with some very talented brothers and sisters who understand procurement, but more important, who understand the industry at the same time. So let's take the call, and then we're going to get back into a number of things.
All right, guys, we're going to go popcorn style. Please keep your comments very brief because we got to get to, well, we want to get to as many as possible. Wally Muhammad, good morning. Wally Muhammad, you're live.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, very good. I want to make a couple of brief comments with respect to this subject matter. First of all, I'd like to thank Chairman Ivory and the brothers on the IT committee of Black Chamber of Commerce for a very, very interesting topic. IT is a weapon that those who want to deprive us of economic opportunity are using. All you have to do is look at the declared warfare on other nations through technology. This is a real weapon. So deny us an opportunity of contracts where we can look with perhaps a more critical eye is to hide the crimes that are taking place. And if we have any doubt the importance of IT, Donald John Trump put to executive command level 4 CEOs of IT companies. He placed them in military ranks with executive rank because they are the heads of IT. This is how important information technology is. And so I commend the brothers for their fight. I commend Chairman Ivory for the fight. But I want to ask this question. Where is the apparatus, the instrument to enforce the policy that BEP represents? Where is the fight at? Where are our black politicians at? How can they allow this, if you will, criminal activity to take place with no repercussions, no investigation, or anything? And this question is aimed at my brother and friend, Chairman Larry Ivory. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Larry, quick response. Well, it probably won't
Well,
be
quick
quick.
response is that unfortunately, our legislators and our people aren't engaged in procurement at the level that we need to, and we got to do a better job of building our own infrastructure and making sure we have compliance in place to do what we need to do. But in order to do that, we have to build our infrastructure. We got to support the politicians in terms of making sure they understand what the issues are, and then we got to hold people accountable. But we got to stay engaged. If we don't stay engaged, it'll continue to happen. And we got other issues that we're going to talk about in terms of the sheltered market, in terms of the BEP Council, who hasn't met within 9 months. So they can't do their job, and they're the only ones that can declare a sheltered market. But we're going to come back to that. I'll let um, our guests kind of chime in on any point of this conversation they would like to chime in on.
This is Arnold. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many legs to this stool, but I just want to take a step back and just talk about like some of the things I think that kind of feed into this. Um, we've established the fact that the number of BEP vendors have reduced for various reasons because of the database. There could be other reasons as well. But if you look at the overall dollars that are eligible in this particular space, in the technology space, it's about $33 billion as of 20 in the 2024. We haven't seen the 25 goals yet, but uh, about 33, and they've only gone up. They haven't gone down. And then 30% of that goal, which is supposedly meant for BEP firms, is about $10 billion. However, the average BEP contract is about $200,000. So um, that being said, there's several major factors that we're not really paying attention to, or we're trying to pay attention to, is that before any contracts in the technology space are distributed, about 67% of all the contracts go to companies with large master service contracts agreement. So you take 67% of the contracts, potential business opportunities, take them right off the table, right? And then because of sheltered market, there's another $918 million that are tied up in sheltered market that are 10-year contracts, which basically said after the 67%, you have the pretty much the remaining 920, just to round it up, $20 million that are totally taken off the table. So now we're talking about what's left, which is a very small amount. And so there's several things that we have to address here. Obviously, um, there's issues associated with this BEP spin and people that and no one really wants to share, right? So if I can get some type of waiver, I'm gonna do it as much. That's gonna be the first choice I can get because most companies think 100% of this money is theirs, and they do not want to share. So they're going to use whatever vehicle they can use to avoid having to use subcontractors or minority vendors. That's just human nature in terms of how the large contractors are operate.
All
The
right.
so there's some things that we have to unpack, and then we could talk about the amount of money that we're chasing. in these small $200,000 contracts, it's a very small number in percentage wise. Um, we should also be focused on those other large amounts as well. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna grab Tonio. Tonio, you're live.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate you, and thank you, our president, Larry Ivory, and all the panel of this discussion. I think it's a critical discussion in this day and time, and I don't want to repeat what the last caller stated because it's very obvious that accountability across the board needs to take place in relations to making sure everybody has a fair shot. I mean, when you think about the tax base, everybody's paying into it, and we have to have a system in play to make sure every person is able to have access to opportunities, especially when it comes to economic opportunities. I got a quick question for the board. There's a announcement from the Department of Labor funding opportunities up to $145 million for organizations interested in administering its pay to perform an incentive pay program to further expand national apprenticeship systems. Within this uh, opportunity with this 145 million that they're saying they're trying to distribute is primarily to expand apprenticeships in relations to several areas, but one of those areas is technology. Have you all considered also looking at how apprenticeship programs and technology could are they already developed, and are you all looking at tapping into the opportunities to have training for IT to be able to, get to this type of money because it's like 145 million that this is getting ready to be released.
Who wants to quickly answer that? Thank you, Tonio.
And so we're going to follow up with you in reference to that because I think we have a bunch of callers that's still there.
Yep.
And I think if we try to respond to that, what I'll do, Antonio, is have you come back to our IT committee and we can have a conversation because you may be able to give us some greater insight than what we currently have. So, LaDonna, let's take the next caller.
All right, cool. Also, you can email us at info@ilbcc.org. All right, Universal, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Greetings, everyone.
Uh-huh, greetings.
Hey, I want to thank everybody, our political PAC members, Dr. Ivory, for putting this show together, and it's most definitely alarming and awakening to a lot of people. And thank you guys for sharing your insight to the people to let the people know what exactly is going on. Look, as Americans, we grind, we work hard, we get our degrees just like everybody else in America, and we have this excellence about ourselves. And when it comes down to it, we get the same certificates, whether from AWS, from Azure, Microsoft Azure, or any place. And when it comes down to doing the work, we're looked down upon because we're black and brown. And it's the same gameplay, it's the same run book, it's the same playbook that these guys run. And we ought to be very upset because we have the talent, we have the skills, we have the background. Now it comes time for us to demonstrate what we've done from the same training as everybody else using open source technologies. And here we are with the barriers. The fact that we look at the goals, right, especially when we talk about CEI and we talk about BEP, right, when we look at the data and we break it down after all the dust is settled, when we de-aggregate the data, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, we find that once the dust is settled, we're looking at goals that are we as black folks in the data as African Americans are far away from any tangible goals being reached. So, my question for you, everyone who's listening, how would your life be without being interrupted? How would your life be? You got these skills, you put in the work. How would your life be as an American, living the American dream without being interrupted by playbooks, systemic racism, and any other foolishness
All right, let's
that's
give him a
going
chance
on?
chance to
When it
answer.
and when it when it comes back down to the table, all right. When it comes back down to the table, guys, we have to support the chamber so that we can come to the table and be proactive about what's going on. Because too far often we find ourselves on the menu. Thank you, guys.
That's it. That's what's up. We got a response. Or we want to go to the next caller. I
Let's
mean,
go
we
to the
know
next
how our
caller.
life would be. It would just be awesome, right? Let's go ahead and go to Michael O'Connor. Michael O'Connor. Mike, you're live, real quick. Get right to your
Hi, good
question.
morning.
Right to the question.
Hi, yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
First, one of your panelists sounds one of your panelists sounds like he's in a hallway, so you can hardly hear him. I think that's Arnold. Um, um, I'd like to be able to hear him a little bit better because it's not coming in.
Okay.
Um, Secondly, I'd like to know uh, uh, are you when we're talking about it sounds to me like you guys are talking about a plethora of of entities that are responsible for the adversities in terms of not being able to get contracts. Are we talking about private, public, both of them, state, county, national? Would you be able to give me a little bit more specifics, or are we talking about all of those? And is it possible? Because, we're right now ready for the midterms. If you can name those people who have not been accountable, so we as WVON listeners will know who to deal with and who not to deal with. At least here in the state of Illinois, I don't know about the rest of the country, but I'm sure we all know that Washington's not right at this point, but we still have to fight because, as all of you know, our fight is continued. Our struggle has for our freedom is a continuance,
Mm-hmm.
and it always has been for
Yeah.
the 250 years that we've been in this country.
Right.
So
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. We'll leave
thank
it right
you.
there.
Let me respond to Michael real quick, LaDonna.
Yeah.
Is that we're going to give you a specific, we're talking state right now, but we're also engaged with corporations and nationally. So our agenda is to involve ourselves in every aspect where we're not getting the piece of the pie that we should be getting. There's a Pacific procurement that we've been looking at. It's called a Metro, I think what it's called egress or something in that regard, but it's a significant procurement that deals with, and there's, I think I just butchered the name, but we've already went to the agency. As a matter of fact, we talked to a gentleman by the name of Jacob Perez, and we presented information where they had a 4% goal or they had no goal on this procurement, that significant procurement that's going to go on for 5 years and maybe 10 years, and they had no BEP goals on it. Now, keep in mind that the Black Caucus years ago made and put in law, and the governor signed on, that every contract should have a 30% goal as an aspirational goal, that they will try to achieve that. And I don't think we're coming anywhere close to that. But what happened on this procurement is that we have no goals on it. We ask why. We're waiting for them to respond. And what they should do is take this procurement off the table and put a goal on it, because we presented the data to show that there's more than 19 different companies who are capable of doing work, and they not, but nonetheless they have no goal. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in on that, but that's a specific procurement that the state gets a chance to do the right thing for the right reason, and we hope to report back to our listening audience as to what our outcome is, and whether they're going to move on with this procurement in spite of the data that we've given them, or whether they're going to stop and do the right thing and say, you know what, we got data that we didn't have. Thanks to the chamber, we're going to stop this procurement and we're going to put a goal on it.
I
We'll
want to
see what
remind you.
happens.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that it is 9:54, and there is a deadline of February 17th that we have to touch on before we get off these airwaves. Larry, did you want to mention that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to pass the ball at this point in terms of a specific procurement, because I know we're running out. I know we got more callers too. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to them, LaDonna. But does anyone want to chime in on why it's so important for us to stay engaged? Because quite frankly, if the chamber is not engaged in asking the questions, then there's not going to be any goals. We're getting hit with the low number of BEP certified firms. We're getting hit because the BEP council is not meeting. They can't get a quorum. We're asking that the director do what we do on the procurement policy board, allow people to meet virtually so we can have a quorum because only the BEP council can declare a sheltered market. And you can't do a sheltered market unless the BEP council is there by which to do it. And that's not going to happen. So, who has expertise in that area? Arnold, Dwayne, Charles, give us some insight about what we just said about, I call it Metro, I don't have the name in front of me. It's Metro Egress or something. I, but I know what it is because I've been dealing with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
repeat that
Larry,
for us. Hmm.
you brought this to my attention regarding there's a joint purchasing solicitation, and you were sharing with me that Metro Ethernet invitation to bid. This is based on what I read, what you shared with me, is that this is an opportunity, a solicitation rather, that statewide, $100 million dollars worth of opportunities over 9 years, not to exceed 10. So it really starts with this transparency. When there's transparency, there's accountability. This is one of many. I know, based on what I just recently read, is that this is in fact due for responses on February 17th. But this is one of many that has slipped through because of the lack of transparency. Um, it, but for the chamber paying attention through its technology telecom committee, we would not even have known about this. And there's many of these opportunities, solicitations that are being pushed through with 0% BP goals. So I just know at one time there was more transparency associated with the BP Council. Um, and I understand really the BP Council has not really been meeting. And that was the opportunity for stakeholders, businesses that are BP, to voice their concerns, things of that nature, to ensure that the process moves forward such that BP firms can adequately participate. So it does start there with transparency. But now once we are able to through the committee identify some of these opportunities that slip through, we need the support from the legislators. We do need support from the agencies so we
I'm
can
going to
point to
interrupt you. I'm going
the
to interrupt
process.
you, Charles, because we got 2 minutes left. Larry,
Yeah.
where do we go from here? I am hearing all of what is the problem, and I'm stepping in and saying, everyone listening, where do we go from here in 2 minutes? Like, what do we need to do?
Well, I think we're doing what we need to do right now by having the conversation, making people aware of the problem that exists, challenging no different than we would challenge Donald Trump in Washington. We need to challenge our stakeholders in the state of Illinois when it comes to procurement. We're losing the battle. We're getting our heads handed to us, and there don't seem to be as much protections as we need. And so we're going to have to continue to address this issue publicly, get our legislators involved, hold people accountable. We hope that the people, we know we got some great people on the CEI commission, like Bruce Montgomery and others that are doing a great job. They can't do everything, but we got to keep pushing and understand every time they do something that has a negative impact, we can't let it go. We have to address it and make sure they understand what they need to do to fix it. So they're going to have a great opportunity to show us coming up on Thursday whether they let this procurement go through that we just talked about, or whether they stop this procurement and put a goal. We're going to report back to everybody in terms of what happens. But that's a tip of the iceberg We got issues in terms of the sheltered market. We got issues in terms of transparency. We got a lot of fixing still to do, but I think that we have this incredible opportunity to stay engaged. I'm excited with Arnold's leadership and Dwayne and Charles and the host of others who are on the IT committee to focus on IT. But we also have construction, we have healthcare, we have all these industries that we got to fight for to make sure we participate, LaDonna.
Okay, Larry, I got to jump in and say thank you to everyone: Arnold Carter, Charles Harrell, Dwayne Cassell, all of the callers, Larry Ivory, and of course, Lorenzo T. Hughes. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, guys, for making this a grantastic show. We need 2 hours, Larry. I say that every week. And all of the comments will still live. Make sure you continue to share the show. We will be back next Saturday on time, 9 a.m. Get the calls in and get to the questions. That's it for now. Join us at ilbcc.org. Bye bye for now. See you Monday.
Get ready to wake up to the pulse of progress as we amplify voices, break barriers, and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive tomorrow. Follow us across the socials at The Wake Up Show Chicago. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. It's The Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise. Welcome to The Wake Up Show Chicago.